campus. We have one of the largest schools of nursing, the All-Star School of Nursing in the state of Georgia. So again, if you're looking for partners in healthcare, nursing or other healthcare education, or looking for scholarship opportunities where we may serve and improve health and well-being, you can always come to us as a partner. But shifting gears to this session, I'm really honored and privileged. We have 4 phenomenal speakers representing very different sectors. And I think that's the mindset that we need to have when we think about the opportunities for partnership, opportunities and challenges. But this is meant to be really constructive, and we're gonna have, each speaker is gonna talk for about 4 or 5 minutes about themselves, their roles, and how they see partnership opportunities. But this is also meant to be engaging. So we're gonna have about 20 or so minutes at least for questions from the audience. So keep thinking of what you may wanna ask the panelists, or what you may wanna ask us to think about more broadly, as we have this opportunity to really think much more broadly. So the framework here for partnership is to think more broadly: education, industry, business, how we can move forward. So with all of that, let me introduce to you Deanne Golden. She's the president and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Georgia Properties. We also have Jessica Court, who's vice president for YKK Corporation of America. And we have Stephen Young, who's the Director of External Affairs at the SK Battery of America. And we have Jay Kim, who's Korean practice for Aril. So we are thrilled to have this diverse set of panelists who come to us prepared to think about opportunities and challenges for Asia-US partnerships. So sticking with the program, Deanne, do you want to lead us in this conversation? And introduce yourself and some of your views.
Well, I'll be happy to. Again, Deanne Golden, I'm President and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Georgia Properties, here in the great state of Georgia, the Peach State, for those that are visiting. We are just so proud of the role that we provide in our economy, in our education, in the world we live in, because I think, as you're going to hear from all of my illustrious panelists today with us, is such a believer in building global relationships and global ties. And I feel it's just such a gift for us here in the Atlanta metropolitan area to do that. And in working with Dr. Gao and KSU, we are so intent on focusing on communication. We feel that that is at the essence of what we do to help people understand the journey of home ownership and wealth accumulation and that achieving of the American dream, as well as commercial investments. And we've also stayed highly focused on our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that are led by Wendy Allen in our company. And this month happens to be the National Association of Realtors Fair Housing Month. And so we have a supreme focus each and every day in our company, but at home with diversity, inclusion, unconscious bias training, and making certain that we give the opportunity of housing for everyone, as I like to say. So that's just a high-level snippet of what we do. And again, so exciting to be able to work with corporations. Our relocation division that Kathy has also championed for nearly 30 years has brought home so many of the world's leading industries and Fortune 500 companies. And we look forward to continuing to do it with many of our global and Asian partners. So thank you.
I went to Japan as an exchange student in high school, so I am aging myself here. But for all of the students that are struggling through learning Japanese, Chinese, or any of the other Asian languages, I have a lot of empathy for you, but also want to say, please stick with it. I wanted to quit. We manufacture approximately half of the world's zippers, 10 billion zippers per year, and are the largest zipper manufacturer in the world. We're headquartered in Tokyo, but we have operations in 72 countries around the world. I was speaking the other day with the representatives of APEC, and I started counting, and we're represented in 18 of the 21 APEC economies, so very big presence in Asia. We have 44,000 employees around the world and approximately $8 billion business. But I am also really proud of the fact that the way that YKK thinks about business is that we don't invest as a manufacturer in the countries that are like the lowest cost place to manufacture. Instead, it is all about what our customers need with us. So that's one message that I want to get across, is that business opportunities, for sure. There's a lot of excitement about new investment, and new investment is wonderful, and we welcome that, but there's also very long-term foreign direct investors like YKK that continue to keep jobs here, create jobs here, change and pivot. I can talk about that later when the business changes and we have to find new customers because original customers have left the country. But there are a lot of opportunities there as well. Last point I want to make just about Japanese companies is that, and especially proud of this being one of the people who's part of this story, but in terms of foreign direct investment, Japan is still the #1 investor in the US economy. That was $679 billion as of last year, and Japan is still the #1 foreign employer in manufacturing, and that's over 500,000 Americans are employed by Japanese companies in manufacturing. So thank you very much, I'm glad to be here today.
Fascinating, I'm learning a lot. Stephen.
It's going to be very hard to follow up. My name is Stephen Jang. I work for SK Battery America. We are the EV battery manufacturer, South Korean EV battery manufacturer based out of Commerce in Northeast Georgia. We talk about partnership. If you look at in the EV and the EV battery industry, all the mass producers of EV cells are all from Asia. And the partnership that these group of companies currently have with the global automakers is very intertwined and very close-knit, because there has not been a cell manufacturer that's come out of anywhere else but East Asia at this point. We are currently, we've invested $2.6 billion. We have over 3,000 employees based out of Jackson County. SK is making additional investments in the United States. A joint venture with Ford up in Tennessee, as well as Kentucky, which will be hiring about 7,500 employees. And US, for our battery manufacturing, US has become the largest producing country for our cells in our global scheme of things. We currently have manufacturing facilities in Korea, China, Hungary, and the US. And the industry itself, with the electrification push we are getting from the White House, I think the future of EVs and its complete supply chain has a very bright future. As for partnership with America, especially Georgia, why we came to Georgia, there's multiple reasons. But I think one of the key reasons is that the diverse Asian community presence up and down Buford Highway, I think plays a major role in, let's say, Korean companies or Asian companies as a whole to choose Georgia as a home. In addition to that, every company that's moved to Georgia or in the Southeast or whatever, the tremendous support that at least we received from the state of Georgia, Governor Kemp, Commissioner Pat Wilson, the whole economic development team across the board in the state have been very supportive. This is the battery industry for our company's first operation in the US. And climatizing, localizing to the state of Georgia has been extremely easy. And I think that's the key reason why there continues to be investment coming into Asia. As for the automotive industry and the EV industry, the Southeast US has become a hub for that manufacturing across the board. Every international automaker has situated themselves in this part of the country. And the EV cell manufacturers, we have nowhere else to go but this part of the country. And I think the supply chain is coming, and the Southeast with Georgia at the center has become the EV and EV cell hub of America. And on top of that, I'm at Kennesaw State University. I cannot not mention Dean Ferguson and the great program he runs at the engineering school. And it is, the university system in Georgia plays a critical role, as well as the technical college system with all the training that is available, and the great program of mechatronics engineering that Dean Ferguson has at the
my name is Jay Kim, and we're from Aril. We got a couple of people here. Actually, Wendy invited me. She was supposed to be here, I think. And so last minute coming in here. I do help from Aril's side. We have an international niche group, and I try to help develop the Korean practice within Aril. Aril is a CPA-led advisory firm, so we help not only from companies overseas doing their first FDI, foot in the door, site selection, all the way to getting them, developed from workforce to help them with their taxes, to help them with their financials. So end to end is what we're trying to provide. I know we also have someone from our customs and tariff practice, and so all the way from advising companies to do partnership. And I think I like Jessica's way. I just wanted to do a quick introduction of myself and how I got here, and maybe that will help in terms of the partnership. So I was born in Korea, but I was part of an expat family. I grew up in Africa, so our family were stationed in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, and also South Africa. So that's how I grew up, part of the international commerce, right? So if you think about commerce and economic development, I think it's really the frontier for diplomacy and also the frontier of partnership and relationship. That ingrained me to say, when I go into business, every business partner I meet, I'm an ambassador. I'm an ambassador to the culture that I bring, the countries that I represent, and also the companies that I represent from a cultural perspective. So that's what I think ingrained in some of the business partnership that's, I think, very critical and helpful for any development that we make from an Asia-US or Europe to the US. So that's kind of a little bit about my background. I came to the US as a visa student. I studied in Indiana. I didn't go to Georgia, but I did come here from all the way to getting my first job up in Chicago and saying it was too cold up there. I grew up in international relationship and FDI being a very important part of Georgia. And that's what the company Aril has brought also, in effect, bringing me and our team of international niches. So it's a great benefit that Georgia has done for even a consulting firm and advisory firm for like us, that the FDI movement has helped someone who's growing back from different backgrounds to bring culture and bring more than not just the numbers or the actual technical advisory. Really, if I look at my day-to-day job, I always ask first before I answer, because a lot of the times, the more I learn and listen to from different backgrounds and cultures, so there's differences from there that I'm learning, as well as helping companies that are coming here. I also wanted to add that I think partnership from, the whole Asian culture is being, United States is, I think, one of the best place for frontiers and IP-driven work. We just mentioned batteries, but batteries is also, I think, a huge component is the IP-driven work. In the United States, we value the development and as well as the technology that's behind them and can flourish and can be protected, right? So that's another advantage that sometimes Asian countries can benefit, not only the market. So, without further ado, I know there's a lot of questions that can go on further, and we'll love to connect and get those done. So, thank you.
All of them touched upon as a key feature, and how many of us are multilingual, and not just because it's good and helpful to be able to speak another language. I speak several myself. You may hear I have an accent. But it's not until you understand or can speak a little bit of another language that you understand some of the cultural nuances that are missed if you don't. I've had that experience multiple times. I do a lot of work in Africa, and it wasn't until I learned how to order food myself that I understood why I'd had such challenges when I was speaking English. I'm from Sweden originally. I live here in the US. My dad lived in Thailand, but most of my scholarly research is in Africa. So it's very interesting to hear the journey. Many of us that are considered ourselves global citizens, you know, the various journeys that we may have had that is not obvious if you put us in a box with a label, just the way we look. Another theme that I think came across was that of infrastructure, sustainability and development, and how these partnerships are really key for making progress. The longevity of some of the businesses that we talked about, in particular with the zippers, learned a lot about the relationships between Japan and ended up in Georgia. What if President Carter had not been that pivotal supporter of the business at that time? Maybe that business would have been elsewhere. So I think there are a lot of common themes that resonate if we look at it from the 30,000 foot level. Anyway, calling for questions.
I'm a local intellectual property lawyer. My question for the panel is, given emerging geopolitical frictions throughout the Asian Pacific region, what do you think is the best strategy going forward, creating partnerships between U.S. and Asian companies? Do we ignore those geopolitical realities, or do we just adjust with them as best we can? Or I'm looking for some strategies. Thank you.
This is not a one-size-fits-all, but what I see companies do is, as you know, companies have to be more agile these days than ever before. So when you talk about friction from something that you cannot control, we need to have plan A and B, right? and so the frictions actually sometimes create opportunities. And I think opportunities meaning that if you're agile enough, if the companies are able to make A and B plans accordingly, they can actually be more competitive in some of the things that we do. So when I wasn't sure exactly the details on what those are, but it's a case by case, and that's why, and to be honest with you, that's why we have advisors, that's why you have different type of second opinions that are more needed than before, because if you have an economy that's very stable and mono, then all you're going to worry about is how can I get it priced lower. But right now it's not that way. It's how you make the whole supply chain that fits different needs of different markets that's bipolarizing. So I know the large Korean companies have diversified and said, hey, maybe we have a US strategy that's going to be totally different from the strategy in East Asia. And we accordingly need to have teams to do that.
Understand, I guess, the YKK way of doing things, that despite the differences in culture and language, it's something that connects us.
Sometimes, but we can make a difference with one opportunity, one interaction, one person, each time, repeatedly and consistently. And I think that's been something that at our company we've really strived hard to do. We've added an entire global focus into our key initiatives, and that was the first time we had really done that, along with our diversity, equity, inclusion, and a We Care spirit. I am so excited, Dr. Gao, that this summer, with the gift and the talent of 4 of your interns here, that we are going to be taking an intentional focus back to language, to take our marketing materials, our guides, our buyer guides, our how to plan for your lifestyle real estate investments, and translating them into a minimum of 3 languages. We'll see how many we can get done. But I think little movements like that can continue to show we care, we listen, as the backbone between Asia and the US. We want to keep being that heartbeat to the home ownership dream, and we can all make little actions that can have big ripple effects. So we're very proud of those actions we can take right here on our own soil.
Thank you. All right, we have another question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is John Chu. I represent FTS. I'm part of the George Mui delegation from Chicago. We're in a logistic company or supply chain management. First of all, I'm very impressed with Jessica that she's saying she's still learning Japanese after 32 years. I mean, by now she's probably very fluent in Japanese, and all I can say to her is ganbatte. So I have a question for you guys as far as Asia and US opportunity and challenges. And that's one thing I was talking to the president of my company just the other day actually, is that during the pandemic, one of the new things that came out is work from home. Okay, this does not exist before the pandemic. So we see a lot of people working from home now, and that becomes an option for a lot of businesses. So what's it going to prevent, okay, for me to hire maybe 10 people in India, it would probably cost me one person here, to do work from home jobs, and outsourcing, you know, a lot of your labor, you know, overseas. So I just want to hear what your take as far as the pros and cons of this.
I hate working from home. I need to, not so unpopular, but we need social interaction, and you know, I hate to see future generations, you know, living off communicating via text message and all that. I think as human beings, you know, we need to face each other, look at each other, you know, get the vibe. And work from home just ends up being you're looking at a computer screen all your whole day. And the other bad thing about working from home, you're almost working 24 hours. Yes. And which is extremely mentally a bad thing. So I would like to hope everybody just goes to the office. Thank you.
So I'll do the pros and cons because I'd say there's both for us. Well, one thing, we're a manufacturer, so it became quite a debate among manufacturing frontline employees who need to be, you know, by the nature of their work, you know, in the office, so to speak. But we're also seeing that it's becoming increasingly difficult to attract and retain people who actually work in an office who could work from home, and just we really can't say to them, no, you can't work from home ever because of that issue. So we've developed a hybrid model at YKK, which actually we now our office staff, though we had the problem of at first it was sort of free for all. You could come in like whatever days you wanted, and then I would drive, you know, the hour it takes me to get into the office, and there's nobody there, and I said there's like no point to be here. So we're in the office on the same days. But I will say, as a working mom, though, so I work from home 2 days a week. It has been transformational for my life, like my life outside of work. Employee in Canada who is excellent, speaks fluent Spanish, and we have major difficulties with some of our IT-related matters in Mexico, and he is actually now working for me in Atlanta, remotely from Canada, mostly on Mexico projects. That never would have happened before, and it's working out great. He's doing a phenomenal job, mostly remote, and then he goes to Mexico, you know, about once a month to also have that face-to-face interaction and build the relationships that's necessary. So I'm really excited about the future of this, to think really outside of the box on issues like that, is how can we reduce labor costs, but how can we more effectively use our talent, even within the company, to find out where's the talent and where are the needs, and maybe that person doesn't have to pick up and move across the, across into a different country, move his family and everything.
Thank you for that. Did anybody else want to comment? Otherwise, we have a new question.
Commercial real estate consulting firm. So I just really appreciate the opportunity and learning more about the panel today. So as Stephen, as Jessica mentioned, like YKK and the SK Battery invest a lot of money in Georgia. We really appreciate that and pushing the economy moving forward. So me and myself actually we're in the same building, 101 area. So we see you guys do the expansion of office side, and I know the manufacturing in Macon. So me and myself working with a lot of clients like YKK and SK Battery. So my question is, what is the most challenge that you guys had when you got doing this process, and how do you come with a strategy to fix this situation? Thank you.
I think it starts with workforce and it ends with workforce. One of the key reasons that we situated ourselves in the state of Georgia, north of Atlanta, is the population density that's available and the workforce that is available in the state of Georgia. It is the struggle for workforce is not just in America, and it's not just in Georgia, it's global. COVID-19 has changed the whole aspect of workforce and the work from home aspect. Manufacturers, factories, like the two of us, struggled quite a bit because of everything going remote. But at the end of the day, in America or anywhere in the world, the availability of workforce, I think, will play a key role in attracting further businesses to locate to whichever country or whichever location it may be.
Impression of manufacturing, or less than negative, but just not an understanding of what opportunities are there. I think a lot of maybe high school students are picturing some very dark, dirty, very manual process, and then when they come in our factory and it's clean and bright and air conditioned and they're fixing really cool robots, they're not actually doing a whole lot of manual work. It kind of changes the impression, but we're struggling a bit really to get that message out and then to let young people know what opportunities. I mean, I have countless examples now that we have this 50-year history. I mean, we have 50-year employees. They're coming up on 50 years working in the company. We have people that started with us in high school that are now vice presidents of manufacturing within our company. So there's tremendous, opportunity for career growth. And I think a lot of students are just not aware of those opportunities.
I will second that. Manufacturing is not what it used to be. Our manufacturing, I can't speak for YKK, but our manufacturing facility is a clean room. No dust, low humidity, air conditioned. It is clean and safe. That is the new wave of manufacturing. And if you want to learn about that manufacturing, please contact Dean Ferguson.
We spend a significant amount of our time for our relocation division being ambassadors, going out and helping the chambers of commerce understand why Georgia, why we've been ranked the #1 place to live again by Money Magazine, why for the 9th consecutive year Georgia and the Atlanta area has been deemed the best place to do business, why there are so many, even Penzi, the moving company, ranks us as one of the highest places for all the reasons that we've talked about, for Georgia being a great place to live. I think with the Kev, you gave me the stat yesterday, so let me make certain I pull it right, but that, we have in Georgia, that we play a part in over 70% of the large headquarters and in people that are coming in, employing over 42,000 people. So if we can ever help an industry or a company, and you are looking to help to attract talent, let us help you. I mean, this is not a sales piece, but this is something we do, because I think it's important when you're trying to bring people and help them understand the quality of life, the education, the healthcare, the communities, the live, work, play lifestyles. We can help be an integral part of that for your workforces and with many of the Fortune 500 in Europe.
If you have any advice on what the first step would be as we talk about partnerships with Asia and America, what the first step would be to get involved in a corporation like your own, how to get my foot in the door, so to speak?
I'm happy to take this one. Networking and what you're doing today is the number one. Aside from the first job that I had in Georgia, my 2 subsequent jobs were never advertised, and it's because of the people that I met. In my particular case, it was through the Japan America Society of Georgia, and I spent a lot of time volunteering with that organization. I'm actually honored now to serve as the chair of that organization, but it's because I feel so indebted to that organization for helping me to find both of my positions. So if you're one of those people like me who's pretty introverted person and not really comfortable in looking at big room like this and going up and introducing yourself, one thing you can do is you can join these organizations and then volunteer and work behind the scenes, and you'll know everybody in the room very quickly. So that's my advice.
Great advice. Anybody else wanted to weigh in?
If I would just add one thing, is actually, it touches based off on the workforce too, but finding great mentors. So we need to develop mentorship programs, and it's all across companies and also professional services like us, but mentorship actually helps land you a job quicker too, because you know where you're going into. And also it helps a lot of the times, like our next generations, we're still figuring out because the world is changing too fast. We don't know what that job is going to be actually. And the only way we can get a good reflection and also plan accordingly was to find mentorship, to hear from them, and then plan my 10 years, my 15 years ahead. So I would say mentorship is another good one.
I'm the co-founder of JoJo Learning. So my company develops solutions to help families raising bilingual, multilingual children starting from babies. So my customers in 20 years is going to be your employees. So recently what I hear is that because of artificial intelligence that is developing so fast, and just from a very recent conversation with a corporate executive, that being multilingual is not going to be important because the machine is going to do all the translation now all there, and the future world is going to be different. So I'm interested to hear that when you think about the future generation, your future leaders that's going to lead your company, when my customers grow up, what characters, what qualifications you are thinking about, and how important it is for this person who's sitting at the interview table that this person is multilingual.
Okay. So as someone, again, who studied Japanese for 32 years, I absolutely do not believe that the AI is going to completely, solve all of the challenges in the future. Having said that, though, I love using AI as part of I use it every day for helping with translation, just as speed up translations and just save me some time. But number one, I always need to look, and I need to understand both languages because it's not perfect. It's getting better and better and better. It used to be, even 5 years ago, quite frankly, terrible for Japanese and English, and I'm very impressed with how much better it's gotten, but it's not perfect. So I think AI is a wonderful tool, and I actually think we should embrace it as a tool, but that will never replace the human interaction, and I think on two fronts, both language but also culture. So one example I will give you is that I'm one of very few Americans who can speak Japanese within my company. And because of that, within probably about 3 months of joining the company, I was on first name basis with the global chairman of the company, who's Japanese, because we could sit there and chat in Japanese, and he was asking how to learn Japanese, and we just had a really great conversation. If I didn't have that skill, there are people who worked there 30 years, never met the chairman of the company, just because it put me in a bit of different, he's just curious, why do you speak Japanese? Because it's a bit unusual. That's one thing. But secondly, I will say also, when I went to Japan, as I participated in the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program as a recent college graduate.
A lot of common themes, but a lot of unique features. So join me in giving them a hand for joining us.